The industry eats its young.
Hey, KP, what's going on?
Hey, welcome back to the next episode of Kev Talks.
Yeah.
Just fair warning to our listeners, I've had 4 cups of coffee and I'm raring to go.
I'm still down in it.
And number 5 is something other than coffee.
I love it. Maybe I should go get mine. I actually blended some bourbon the other day.
Well, this is going to test your editing skills. I'm not sure what you're going to want to keep in or out.
We're going to keep it all.
Fair warning.
Let's rock and roll.
It's believe it or not, it is January is half over, dude. That's ridiculous.
It's insane.
It really is.
Yeah,
it's half over, which means I heard someone say, which means it's almost Valentine's, which means it's spring break and Easter, and then it's summer, and the next thing you know, it's fall.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
We're 2026 is almost gone.
I know somebody special's birthday's coming up. She's a Valentine's girl.
Oh, that's good. You can always celebrate. I've got a wedding anniversary in February, so
wow,
it's always
congratulations.
fun. It's always fun to celebrate that along with Valentine's Day. Anyway,
for sure,
a lot going on in the industry as well. You tell me which one did you want to kind of run down? We've got a great episode upcoming, but before we get to our phenomenal guest, there's a lot of things going on in the industry. I mean, Chinese New Year. You and I have been in this industry, and that's I can remember. In some cases, we would start planning for that. And I think it may not be as disruptive. Maybe that's not the right terminology, but in the past, we would start planning prep for that 6 months in advance.
100%.
When I was at a large retailer, that's exactly what we would do. So that's upcoming. We'll talk maybe a little bit about that. STG logistics and bankruptcy filing.
I saw that.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, yes. I was driving down the road the other day. I was riding down the road. I wasn't driving. And I saw that and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's a sign of the times. And unfortunately, I think there probably will be, that will not be the last, obviously.
But they've been a powerhouse in the industry for
doesn't matter
long time. It's insane.
Yeah. And then Maersk. This is pretty recent. Maersk. Red Sea, here I come.
Yep.
They're saying, yep, we're going.
Opening back up.
That's a pretty big decision and can have some major cascading effects. And that's a whole episode. And maybe that's what we do.
Yeah.
We try to get someone on to talk a little bit about that.
We need to talk about that because what are we is it been 3 years?
I think so. Yeah. I'm trying to think day 500 or 800. I don't remember how many days it has been, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a ton. I was going to try to look real quick while we're doing that. But yeah, that is a huge announcement, man. It is huge
and very recent. So more to come probably on that, and definitely could be an episode, but pretty impactful in this industry.
Yeah,
let's go back maybe a little bit. I know we're jumping through a lot of it, but I do want to get to the guest. But Chinese New Year, it's the year of the fire horse.
Year of the fire horse.
Freaking fire horse.
I don't know, but I just did real quick. The horse signifies energy, freedom, and adventure with a focus on action and leadership, though it's also a time for balance and avoiding impulsiveness. So sounds like a horse.
That sounds like a pretty good 2026. I think that aligns really well with probably what you and I are working on, what Kev Talks is working on. Yeah, I think that's a really good characterization. Okay, I'm all in on Year of the Fire Horse.
I've also ridden some horses that I would say would be fire horses, and I've ended up on my tail. But sometimes you just gotta hang on, grab the saddle horn, and hang on because it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, I would love to hear. I don't think I've heard those stories. I want to hear those stories. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's lots of them, but there's more time on my butt than anything else.
Well, listen, we always talk about a little bit about Northwest Arkansas, and we're still very excited about the February 4th event that we have with partnered with CSCMP for our live recording episode, all about essentially Northwest Arkansas and how it has become, past, present, and future of a supply chain hub. So if you haven't registered, please consider registering. We'd love to see you. It is limited seating. It's going to be we've got a great panelist, and we've got food and drinks. And if you've never seen a podcast live, this is your chance. Now, it's not extravagant, but you do get, and it's a great networking event as well.
Yeah. And just, listen, just the panelists that we're going to have there and
tell them who it is.
The legendary, these are legends. So we got Tracy Black, who was former SVP at JB Hunt, spent, nearly 30 years at JB Hunt, and now a partner at New Road Capital Partners. Steve Moore, who's SVP at Uber Freight and was there through the Transplace, all the Transplace acquisitions, and then the acquisition by Uber Freight, and has been around for a long time. And then Matt Waller, who was the dean of the Walton College of Business, very instrumental in getting their supply chain practices up and running. And Matt is just, a champion for all things Northwest Arkansas, all things supply chain in the U of A, help get them to, the number one supply chain school in the country. So, dude, so excited to spend time with these folks. And we've got, just looking at the people that have, indicated their interest to attend this through the LinkedIn post, there are a ton. Yeah, there's a who's who. So, this is going to be a great conversation. Like you said, it's nothing fancy. It's me and you and cameras and conversation. So this is going to be an incredible conversation about Northwest Arkansas as a supply chain powerhouse.
Yeah,
in the world. So I'm stoked about it.
Yeah, we're definitely excited. And if all of that isn't enough, I'll just sweeten the pot a little bit. Anybody that attends, you can get your picture taken with the legend Kevin Higgins, a selfie, and he'll sign it and everything. So if all of that wasn't enough,
that's right.
Higgins is offering up selfies.
We're going to have a selfie station.
Okay, now no one's coming.
Everybody just bailed. I just saw somebody just like, we went from 49 0 people. Yeah.
Weather permitting. Again, this is February 4th. It's Northwest Arkansas. So we're all praying in good vibes for good weather, but rain or shine or snow or ice, we're going to be there. We're going to, if you're not able to attend and see it, then it will be a future episode, but come out and network and get to meet some great people and see a podcast recorded, what all goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah. I just had a thought. So I had two things. So it's according to Lars Jensen, is the day 788 of the Red Sea.
There we go. Thank you.
Crisis. So I said 3 years. It just seems like it's been 3 years. So 788. And then who we should invite to the CSCMP thing? Our number one fan.
Yes. Okay, Mom.
Yeah.
Mom. We need Mom there.
She's coming.
That's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
I think she should be there just to, fangirling and screaming, like the Elvis girl, the girls in the crowd at Elvis. She should be screaming for us.
People can take their picture with Mom.
Mom. Oh, now you're pimping out Mom? What?
She's going to be famous.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
Love her.
I hope she will come out. That will be phenomenal.
Yeah, no pressure. She'll watch this episode tomorrow and she'll be like, I can't believe you did that. No more Christmas presents for you, boy.
Well, listen, should we get to, our guest?
Let's get to it, man, because I'm excited. I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about them all, but just the people that we get to hang out with and spend time with, man, what a privilege that we have.
Yeah, this is definitely one that we've tried to get for a number of episodes and finally have. We recorded this a while back and we wanted it to be one of the first ones that we kind of kick off a really special year for us in 2026. A lot of good, great guests and upcoming events and all kinds of things we'll share a lot more about. But this is a great episode. I'm gonna just kind of kick off the introduction, if that's all right, Higgins.
Yeah, get after it.
Lee Rector is a veteran supply chain expert and founder of Labor AI, a prescriptive analytics solution designed to right-size warehouse staffing. With experience in over 40 countries and more than 1,000 customers, Rector specializes in helping companies integrate labor planning with warehouse automation. He is the author of Warehouse 101 and a recognized thought leader in supply chain efficiency, workforce automation, and AI-driven operations. Welcome, Lee.
Man, let's get to it. I can't wait.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Kev Talks. Really excited on this one. So, Lee, we've done your introduction, but I want you to tell our audience just a little bit about you, a little bit about your career, and most importantly, what you're working on now, what problem you're solving.
Yeah, man.
Sure. Well, first of all, Kevin, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time. Myself, I've been in the industry for almost 40 years now, worked across multiple companies, started out installing basically mini computers for the supply chain industry. So those are the computers that looked and sounded like dishwashers.
Yeah.
Moved on to sort of more of an operations type role. Moved back into the IT market early 2000s. And for about the last 25 years, I've been doing consulting and software solution to market. 40 countries, 6 continents, maybe 1,000 customers or over 1,000 customers in that time frame. In 2020, I exited that company that was in the warehouse optimization and WMS space. I exited out of that and decided I would take some time off. And during that time off, I wrote a book on warehousing.
Oh, wow.
There's probably a backstory to that one as well.
I have questions
and at the
on
same
that,
time,
but yes, keep going.
Yeah, we got to get into
at the same time, it occurred to me that, over all my years of working, that I was always doing the same thing for customers, which was essentially helping them figure out and right size their labor. So whether it was, a global 3PL or a mom and pop shop or, a food company, it didn't matter. It always started with, do I have the right number of people? Mm-hmm. And so what I wanted to do was build something that was actually a solution, I want to say, for the people. So in other words, we built a technology in Labor AI that is priced affordably for every warehouse operation on the planet and doesn't require engineering services to get it up and running. So that's sort of something unique in the marketplace. And what we've come up with is a prescriptive analytics solution that uses AI to replace not a person, but replace the allocation system in a WMS.
I can't wait to just kind of peel back all of those layers. And I can see Higgins just salivating as well. However, I'm going to jump right to, you mentioned your book, Warehouse 101. So did you originally write it because you were maybe tired of explaining the same thing repeatedly, or because you saw kind of the industry overcomplicating something that didn't really need to be? What was behind writing Warehouse 101?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of twofold. The first is I was tired of teaching companies about their own business. Right. So you can't, you go into a company and you actually, exactly. Well, and that's what I do now is when they buy our software, they get a copy of the book. I say, read the book. So that was the first part from the customer point of view. Secondly, from a more, we'll call it sympathetic note, the industry eats its young. And what I mean by that is they don't do a very good job of training people to come into the industry. When they get in, they get abused and they have no way of learning things. So we put them in a warehouse and they can't find a door. And we expect them to create miracles without even, knowing the terminology. And after being in the industry for so long, it bugs me that nobody speaks in English anymore. Everything is an acronym. Yep. So in fact, part of the book, half the book is a glossary of terms that you would see in the industry. The other half is all about the science and the math to run a warehouse. So it was to basically, hopefully we could educate the next generation of warehouse managers, because they don't have the time that we had. Going back to the original days, we got 7-day lead time to get stuff to a client. Now you're lucky if you get 7 hours.
Yeah,
and
right.
so it's trial by fire for people, and they get chewed up very quickly. And, it's pretty demoralizing if people are asking you things and you don't know, and there's no place for you to go to get the information.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote the book.
In what you were saying about acronyms, like even within segments of our supply chain, the acronyms are different. Like you can go from warehouse to transportation. You'll have some crossover, but if you go from domestic transportation to international transportation, we have different acronyms, and it's like it's a different language. It's learning a different language, because I grew up in domestic transportation and went over to international transportation. I had no idea what they were talking about.
But we expect people to be able to go, oh, well, you should have learned that in school.
Oh yeah.
Well, supply chain schools don't teach anything about operations. They teach the sexy stuff, the math. They all come out of their supply chain course talking about EOQ, right? Economic order quantity. So I'm a supply chain expert because I know what that is. Great. But where can you find that in the warehouse? I don't go in the warehouse. So we're not doing a very good job of educating the next generation.
So on that topic of educating, so Lee, what do you see as maybe some of the biggest inefficiencies in today's warehouses here in 2025?
Well, people are always going to be the inefficiency. And it's basically, for me, it's always around people. So I wrote it in my book, and I wrote an article on something called the labor paradigm. And the labor paradigm essentially looks something like this: is if you go into the warehouse on Monday and we pick 5,000 units, the warehouse manager looks out on the floor and everybody's busy. And then on Wednesday, we do 8,000 units, and the warehouse manager looks out on the floor and everybody's busy. And then on Friday, we do 3,000 units. The warehouse manager looks out on the floor and everybody's busy. And what the warehouse manager doesn't understand is that there's collusion on the floor. On Monday's a normal day, people walk at regular speed. On Wednesday, they know it's a busy day because they've been there long enough. They speed up because they don't want to work overtime. And on Friday, they tell everybody, slow down, slow down. We don't want to get sent home early. We all want our hours. But the warehouse manager, because he's watching sort of management by walking around, doesn't see these things. So the inefficiency typically is the fact that the manager sits in the office and they don't have people on the floor chasing up what people are doing. And almost all your problems in business are representative that the data does not drive the solution. Somebody puts their finger up in the air and goes, oh, that Kevin guy, he's a terrible picker, right?
Yeah.
But, Higgins, that guy's the best picker I've got. Why?
Not really.
He's never around the office, right? And then you find out that the operation is, well, I have to go back to the office to get my next order. And Kevin is there because he completes his order quick. And Higgins knows he's taking the trip around the neighborhood because he's getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
So the deficiency is in floor level management.
So is that where you see most companies go wrong in trying to track that labor productivity?
It's a point of diminishing returns. And what I mean by that is, especially in today's marketplace, if I'm tracking an employee on a particular task, i.e. I have a labor management system, and I say to you, here's your assignment. You've got to go pick 12 cases. It's 4 lines, and it's this part of the warehouse. My LMS says, you've got 17.4 minutes to complete that task. And you come back, and then I say, you know what? He did great because he was at 17.1. He was at 102% of task. And then for every task that you do during the day, you were at 100% on task. So the challenge is, if you're at 80% of the task, what am I going to do with you? In today's marketplace, you came to work. You're a working body for me. What am I going to do with you? I'm not going to get rid of you. And if you just don't care, because you know what? You're either a temp or the competition is that you fire me, I'm going across the street tomorrow. I've got a job anyways.
Yep.
So what are you paying for? So the model that we've built at Labor AI is forget about measuring the individual. Why don't you right size the organization correctly today for tomorrow? So I know how many people I need in the building tomorrow. So what you end up doing is saying, oh, this is how much work I have. I need this many people.
So is that, I mean, yeah, let's deep dive into Higgins. I'm going to go right into labor AI because I think that can take us right into
let's go
the majority of it. But so Lee, kind of walk us through labor AI and what really makes it stand out in the market and its uniqueness today.
Okay. Well, let's preface the way labor planning goes right now.
Yeah.
So typically, I would say our biggest competition is Microsoft Excel. So people go and say, oh, you know what? Over time, we receive 12 pallets an hour. So tomorrow we'll receive 12 pallets an hour. In 6 months, we'll receive 12 pallets an hour. But that doesn't determine what's on that pallet. If that pallet is 6 cases on it, or if that pallet has 140 cases on it, if it weighs 1.5 tons, or if it weighs 300 pounds, that's a different amount of work for each of that.
Yeah.
Or so using that average of 12 pallets doesn't work. And if I'm in a 3PL business, well, I can receive 12 pallets an hour, but as my receiving and my put away is part of the same task, one customer's at the front of the building, the other one's at the back, right? Then these tasks that are averaged over time, they take out the uniqueness of the day. Okay. So what Labor AI does is takes the activity. So it takes whatever's in your order, well, whether it's an inbound order or an outbound order, and we take that in today. So today, call it Wednesday. Okay. I take a look at all the work that you have to do for Thursday. And before it gets to the WMS, our AI solution and our database of 1,000 engineered standards takes that activity and turns it into work content. So it tells me that, oh, for what you're picking today, you're actually receiving 12.9 pallets an hour. So your 120 pallets that you're receiving is we're going to require 11 hours of work. So then I know I have 11 hours of work. And we do this for 37 touch points of labor. So we actually forecast the labor before it happens by using a database that's already pre-populated with engineered standards, like stepping on a fork, stepping off a fork, aligning the fork. Then we have things like acceleration, decelerations of equipment, and all of the elements that are built into that to build a solution that essentially, and I'm going to use a trade name here, is essentially Google Maps for the warehouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what we do is we use what's called a synthetic model to basically prescript how many hours you have across your 37 touch points. You know, I got to build 100 boxes. How long is that going to take? I got to put in 14 labels. How long is that going to take? And so all of these things are then calibrated without the need for somebody to go out on the floor and do a time and motion study. And then we get them up and running in 10 days because we don't have all that services that are behind it.
So Higgins, the last couple of episodes, we talked a little bit about your days of opening a warehouse back in the 90s. Can you imagine having something like this at your fingertips?
Oh, I can't even imagine, because it was all, you know, we did this all on Excel.
Yeah.
No, this was the 90s. You were probably using SuperCalc.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't really exist.
Yeah. Lotus 1, 2, 3 or whatever it was, you know?
Exactly. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with Microsoft Excel. It is the engine of supply chain. At the base rate, it's still the product of choice for everybody that's been working in the industry for the last 20 years. The problem is that our industry is aging out. All the guys with the knowledge that built those spreadsheets and knows what's in them, they're all aging out. And they're taking that knowledge to the grave with them. And the new generation wants an app and AI to do it for them, right? So being able to build something that's foundationally designed to make it easier for the new operator to get an answer out for, I'm in a multi-client facility and I can figure out in essentially 30 seconds how many people I need on the floor tomorrow. That's where we're going in the marketplace. Get away from being reactive and get into prescriptive, right? Think forward.
100%.
Yep. So Lee, how does this bring in any of the measurable ROIs that everyone's going to be looking for? It sounds cool. It sounds nice. It definitely sounds more efficient. But we all know a measurable ROI is what it's going to come down to. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, the ROI, and again, typically because we're on a SaaS model, the clients are seeing like a major uplift the first time they use it. Now, the idea is to help manage out your hours. So it's not about turning around a battleship. But we've walked into some operations where, on an annual cost of the solution at around $7,000 or $600 a month, they saved $1 million, saved $400,000 in the first quarter of the year. Right. So, it's really, it's scalable. So if you have 15 people in your building, you'll still get 10% savings. But if you have 1,000 people, maybe you get 5%, because the whole idea is that even if I have a standard that says I should be doing 50 units an hour, but I don't have the work on Monday, but I have a static staff, those people come in, there's not enough work for them. And then what most companies do is they wait, and then on Thursday they get hit with a peak because, God forbid some movie star died or something, and all of the collateral that went around that guy is now on sale.
Yep.
Yes.
And I have a special and whatever. And now I'm slammed. And I get in the morning and I look at my docket, and I usually think I'll have like 100 e-commerce orders, and I've got 2,500 orders now. Now I have 3 problems. Number one, I don't have enough people. Where do I get those people on, short notice? There is no place. The staffing agencies don't support you. Number 2, I have a problem. I have to make boxes, right? Because the product's got to go out in a box or in a bag. I don't have enough stock in that.
Yeah.
And number 3, I'm going to sweat this out with overtime at double or triple my people. So that's eating my profit for the entire month. So typically what we see are the peaks before they happen. And then because we do trend analysis on an ongoing basis on flying an airplane, so we set the target of productivity, whatever that client wants. They want 80% utilization or 75. If I make 75% utilization 5-6 days in a row, the software will then increase it to 76 and manage out the hours to continually drive a higher percentage of utilization. Utilization is basically how much people work on task during the day. So it's very simple. It's got extremely sophisticated math behind it, but it doesn't need to be costly.
So you've referenced a couple of times, or maybe real briefly, about some examples. Can you give some real world examples or success stories that you can share, maybe from early adopters, early users, and what'd you learn out of that process?
What did I learn, or what did I hear? So obviously, had one client. I'll protect the innocent here. A 3PL. They have an e-commerce customer that's basically growing by about 5-10% per month. Yeah, they're doing 2,500, 3,000 orders a day. But they're not operating it as an e-com operation. They're operating it as sort of a B2C type business operation.
Yeah.
So we go and we see that there's so much underutilization because they have all these extra touches and things like that. So we go in, we do their model, we tell them, this is the way you're doing it today. We run the model, and your productivity is at 70%, but your throughput is very poor. We can maintain your productivity at 70%, but you make 4 changes to your operation. And oh, by the way, you can now support 5,000 orders or 5,100 orders with the same number of people. And so as you come to the crazy season, which they were coming into, where they expected to get to somewhere 8,000 orders a day, they would be able to handle it, because if they had to increase their staff from 37 to 127 people in basically 18,000 square feet for this customer, you couldn't do it. The people would be on top of them, and their productivity would go down through the floor because they'd be working around themselves. So that company on a contract, a single contract, saved $1 million and made $1 million profit on that contract in 4 days.
Wow.
So it was small changes.
Wow.
I had another customer where they brought me in. They asked me to model them. I said, yeah, you basically, your productivity level, they thought they were doing well because companies always measure themselves against themselves.
Right.
Like I did 44 units an hour today. So I did 40. I'm better tomorrow and things like that. And we went in and we actually showed them that your numbers that you've set for your own targets are too low. And so that president basically said, okay, turned around to his vice president, said, starting Monday, we bring in 2 less people. Didn't bat an eyelash, didn't upset the entire business. They just brought in 2 less people. So that was $100,000 in a 1-hour meeting.
And was that information based off of their actual productivity plus the information, the prescribed information that you had as well? You just showed them their data and how productive they could be if they were.
We showed them what they should be versus what they were actually measuring their own productivity to.
Yeah.
So we were measuring a productivity standard for them relatively low for a 3PL, 75% utilization because, they have a lot of temps and temps just don't work at the same productivity level. They're not as invested, but they were low.
Yeah.
And they were low by a lot. And I said, well, you should start with, you know what? Don't take a hacksaw, but take a scalpel.
Yeah. 2
people out, $80,000 right off the top the first month. Now think about that, $80,000 over 12 months. That's about $7,000 a month profit on the same client.
Jeez.
Right. So right away, now that customer, now they're using it in 14 sites and they're globally, they're probably making on profit on all of that from all their sites, well over $1.5 million a year profit that they would have been spending on labor otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people, but it's a big operation. And we're now, we're doing pilots and proof of concepts for companies that, 100 sites, 200 sites around the globe.
Wow.
We're in 18 countries already or 19 countries already. We've got some pretty big global brands as our customers, but it all rolls back to the initial, not the initial proof of concept, but the reason why we built the software. Make it rapidly implementable, make it affordable, and make sure that I get an ROI on a monthly basis. Now, if you said that to every software package on the market, how many of them would actually apply for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't have a staff of industrial engineers and statisticians that are pouring through all of that data to determine what changes they need to make. You're able to take all of that, compile it, and give them what they need to do.
And those, it's not that I'm out to attack the engineering community, but if you look at what a majority of floor level engineers do, they are the ones who are at risk from AI, not the people picking boxes, but the clerical and the engineers that are doing these planning and these numbers daily. Those are the people that are at risk of having their jobs reduced or reformatted due to AI, because AI can do that relatively quickly. So it's all about teaching it the right prompt.
Yeah. So Lee, on that, what are some of the common misconceptions about using technology, AI, to manage a warehouse or manage warehouse labor?
Great question. Jeez,
the most common mythology is that it will replace the people on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's and the second most common assumption is that it will be generative. In other words, or call it assertive. It'll make decisions without having to have human interference. And it's not. We're not even close to that. Assistive AI. Yeah. And so if you look at it, some of the models are out there right now. MIT did a study on AI and its affinity and to drive revenue out. And they're saying only 3% of those projects are actually becoming profitable. So it's not a savior. Now, if you tie that in with your automation, okay, great. But now I have the problem of, number one, getting delivery on my automation. We're already 18 months behind on that. and to get it up and running. So, you go from now until end of 2028 before you even start getting efficient. So it's not a short-term solution for us.
Mm-hmm.
And thirdly is the fact that the AI companies and the AI, what it's doing to the marketplace is driving up the cost of power, energy, because they are data hogs.
Yeah.
As I was driving down the highway today, everybody here in Florida, your bill's going up by $5. So that's a month. So, I went to a seminar in April, and basically they laid out what the cost of labor is going to go up by 28% over the next 5 years. So if you want to, great, invest right now to lay off that problem 5 years from now. What AI does is allow people to think smarter from the managerial level right now, which is at the planning, if you allow it, right? But that's where I see it right now, and the clericals. So you won't play the phone tag, something will happen in real time, and AI will be able to, assist you in that. So whether it's, a camera-based system that says, oh, it recognized an accident on the floor, there'll be immediately a note to HR, immediately a note to maintenance. That all gets done in real time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't wait for the guy, the floor level manager to go over there, write up a report and pass around. That's where AI can do. But the problem with that is it speeds up our reaction time, which then forces us to then be more reactive.
Yeah.
What we really need to use AI for is to be retrospective and start looking at the mistakes we made in the past and recognizing our trends with our people.
Yeah. Well, so that's great. That's a great segue into kind of the next question that I had in regards to, so to be able to do that, you've got to have data. So how does labor AI support companies that might feel totally overwhelmed by the topic of big data or even complex systems that they likely see labor AI in being? How do you overcome that?
Yeah. And to calm there, because I'm sure you see it, Lee, and KP, you and I both have, is that the IT group gets spun up because it's like, oh, this is work. This is going to be work. So I think it's a great question. I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So I've always been against sort of this kingdom building by the IT groups inside organizations. So we're the easiest lift for our clients, the ones that don't have like, a full-blown WMS or even ERP, is they could push us the flat file of the order file daily. So I just need the order file and the inventory master file. Those are the only two files that I really need to make this run to get you an accurate number every single day. So it's not a heavy lift. Whether we build an API into your current system,
right,
or we just set up an FTP server and you run a report and send it to us as a flat file, we do all the work. The idea here is that, our entire system runs on about 74 fields of data. And
wow,
and that's as little as what's today's date.
Yeah.
To, what's the ship date and the order number and the SKU number. You start taking out all the things that are on every single order, units at a level, you just tell me I've got 17 units, and we'll go to your order inventory master and figure out, oh, that's one case and 5 eaches.
Yeah.
And if you don't even have that populated in your case, well, what we're building our AI to do is to web scrape and go find somebody else that actually has the case dimensions and case configuration and pull that up for you. So it helps you populate your model. So AI is a really powerful tool if you want to use it for good and not evil. Right? So I don't see AI being able to go out there and say, Kevin P, you don't work as efficiently as Kevin H, so we're going to get rid of you.
Okay.
Where the WMS companies are struggling in the market is that they want to get to optimization and orchestration. And what I mean by that is they'll go around and say, you know what, Kevin P, you're better at picking stuff off a level 4 with a reach truck. So I'm going to give you those assignments as they come up before Kevin H, because you know what? He's not really good at that. But you know what Kevin H is really good at? He's meticulous. He's thorough in counting. He never makes a mistake. So we're going to throw Kevin in receiving. because the managers don't see this.
Yeah. That's a
So
really
that's what,
good way of looking at it. I hadn't thought about that and hadn't heard anybody really articulate it in that way. But that's a really good usage.
Yeah.
but they're struggling because they don't have this all the data to support that decision. Well,
Yep.
that's kind of the, oh, who has that? Well, the guys that are capturing all the data, the big systems, are moving down that lane orchestration level. What I like to compare AI to, labor AI to, is, so we're the sheet music guys. We read the music and go, oh, you've got one part for a drummer, you need one guitar player, you need one bass player, and you need one saxophone player.
Mm-hmm.
We don't tell you when to play and we don't tell you what notes to play, but we tell you how big your band should be.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
Because
that.
what's happening in the market today is everybody is racing to be a marching band to keep up with Walmart and Amazon,
Yeah.
who are just eating up the labor pool.
Yeah.
So they're all hiring based on what if one of my guys doesn't show up.
Yeah. And you may
So-
just need to be, instead of being a marching band, you may just need to be a trio or a quartet.
As
Yeah.
long as the parts are there, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're getting into this right sizing, prescriptively telling you tomorrow how many people, how many hours of work you need. So there are other organizations that will solve that problem on, we'll call it variable labor, but the world is moving to variable labor.
Yeah.
So instead of
Yeah.
an orchestra, it really needs to be like a polka band, right?
You know what? To me, it's almost like jam session night at a bar.
Yeah.
Just bring your guitar in and work for 4 hours and leave.
Well,
Yeah.
and I love the idea. So it kind of reminded me of Good to Great, right? The book that I think Jim Collins was the author of, right? And one of the things that we talked about back in the late 90s, early 2000s is, somebody who's great at operations in an organization and shines in operations gets the attention of somebody who says, hey, you're so great at what you do, let's put you in sales. And then they put them in sales and they fail. Not because they were terrible, because they just weren't great at it, but they were great over here. And we tended to do that in Walmart back in the day. Is like, hey, you're great here, so let's put you over here. And then we would just watch people fail. So if you have somebody who's great at receiving, let's move them to shipping or move them to, fulfillment or something like that. And they're not great at it. So we say, well, we made a bad hire, so we've got to let them go or something like that. But I love what you said about hey, they're great at this, so we're gonna assign them this responsibility, which they're great at.
But
Well, it's
Kevin,
specialization,
using data
right?
to do that, right? Using data to do that, not just a personality that says, "Hey,
Not
I think
anecdotal.
you're good at this." It's
Yeah.
using data that tells you
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's using the data, if the system's capturing it, to know that
Yeah.
they're doing that.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Kevin H, your model there, I tend to simplify that model even more so, because I use it sort of from a sports metaphor that people always know. Is that, you know what? I'm an all-star, like Pro Bowl center. I've been for 10 years. You're never going to see me get promoted to be quarterback. It's a different skill set,
100%.
right?
Love
So
that.
if you just promote people based on what they're good at, not only that, the person that should be the next quarterback, he's leaving your company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's realizing that your company doesn't have succession plan.
Yeah.
And I wrote sort of a survey in a paper about this 2 years ago on the aging out of the marketplace, and specifically using like an organization like the IWA, where the current gap between the owners, the people that have been in industry, and their first level managers is almost 30 years. And the years of experience, the typical manager has less than 3 years on the floor. They haven't even seen what they don't know yet. And these people are exiting. So the big companies are acquiring them, rolling them up, and finding out that, oh, I bought a house of cards because the data and the math, the knowledge wasn't shared with the people that are actually on the floor.
Yeah.
This is happening in every single company that I go into around the globe. It doesn't matter who they are, size, shape, industry. We're basically talking to virtually every company across every vertical market, and they all have the same problem.
So Lee, when you're talking to people to potential clients, what advice do you give to a warehouse manager who's looking to boost productivity without a massive capital investment?
Yeah. Well, it starts with understanding your own data. I mean, the first thing every consultant does before they go into an operation, and hopefully they're not going in and just walking around going, "Oh, there's a coffee cup on the floor." So you move that, you'll be much more efficient, because that's representative of people not working on the floor. Understand your data. Understand what happens if I have an 80-20 Pareto in my business versus a 90-10, right? Understand the rules of travel. All of those things, these people on the floor that want to make impact, they do. They really want to make an impact. They want to learn how to do it better, but there's no tools for them, right? You cannot hand those people Microsoft Excel and go, "Here's the tool that we've all been using for 35 years. You should be using it." And so obviously getting some experience and make mistakes. So I basically let them know that, number one, they're going to make mistakes, so they should do it, but they should learn from it. But it's really hard to steer them to a really good resource right now, other than the IWA or work or the CSCMP that have more education programs for people like that. But then they have to find time. They have to get somebody basically to pay for their stuff, because they want companies and things like that. So we need to be organizationally and industry more specific in how we train our people. Or 2 years from now, when the labor crisis is in full swing, there's not enough people. We'll have a shortage of 3 million people on the floor. And you'll go to your grocery store and you won't have anything. Every banana you get will be bad because it didn't get there in time. Your milk will be green because it's not getting there on time. And by the way, the stuff that you ordered on Amazon, you're getting 5-year-old shorts instead of your pantsuit that you ordered or whatever, because the mistakes will be made and people are just throwing stuff out the floor.
Yeah. Listen, as a consultant, for small and medium-sized businesses, they're always looking, for a quick win, the benefits of labor AI's solutions. What's immediate? What's the low-hanging fruit for those types of businesses?
We don't fall out of bed without getting somebody like 5% savings. The more robust the company, so think of them as, if I take a look at industries that are most robust in supply chain, that is in food. So the Krogers, the food stores of the world that are setting the bar.
Okay.
Right? Take Amazon out. When people start talking about best in class and, things like that, there's only optimal performance. Optimal means the resources that I have, that's people, building, and funds. We all don't have like endless pockets like Walmart and Amazon, so we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to them. So typically, the companies that we're dealing with are in the 3PL space or in that $250 million and down. That and their typical savings is somewhere between 8 and 20%.
Wow, that's great.
So it's because we're not selling capital, we're just selling them actually visibility on what they're doing.
Yeah. So from a technology standpoint, what kind of tips for getting teams to adopt just new technology in general, not labor AI, but in general, new technology? Of your experience, getting buy-in and acceptance from teams, what are your tips?
Well, I would look at that as twofold. Are you talking about the buy-in from the people on the floor that are actually using it, right? Which is, go back to like a Stephen Covey principle-centered leadership. It's good for the company. It's good for you guys, right? And it's specifically in this part of the world, it's what's in it for me. Well, if we're profitable, we can still pay you. If we have to start cutting off jobs and things like that because we can't afford it, we have two things. We'll have a service level problem, which means we won't have any customers, and then none of us will work, right? it should not be a threat to them to say, you learn to use this or you're out. So that's a high water, that never flies, right? That's controversial and gets people's backs up against the wall. So they will do whatever they can to submarine your idea. The other thing too is to bring them along in the beginning. Okay. Don't drop it in on them at the end and say, we've already made this decision. You're going to start using it on Monday. Yeah. Bring them in, let them learn the process, help them design the process of what's going to be done.
Yeah.
People on the floor are your greatest assets. You might as well use them.
Yeah. So true.
And how many times, you go in and I've sold $1 million system to the president of the company. I sold him on all the benefits and things like that. And by the time it got to the floor, like the president didn't even know, that it wouldn't work for them because they didn't have something to support it, or it didn't do something specific. I mean, I've been in boardrooms and I can tell you some great mistakes that are like $100 million mistakes because the executive side, that's a good idea. But the operation said, no. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have that buy-in, it's always going to be a challenge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
not participating.
I think that there is a rush right now for companies to get out there and automate. Mm-hmm. And I would suggest to anybody that if you're a novice when it comes to automation, get some help. If you just go to your vendors and the vendors are going to tell you, oh, you know what, I'm buying you a simple, let's call it a layer picker, and you'll get 1,200 picks an hour or cases an hour through your layer picker. If you don't have 1,200 picks an hour, why are you buying a layer picker?
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds great, but then it sits on your floor and does nothing. So the automation vendors are selling you best case scenario, not necessarily your case scenario. So getting help on that, and then more importantly, understand the automations is only half of the picture. How many projects fail because the integration side, the WMS that they have, can't support the automation that they bought. So now they have to add a third party integration solution that overcomplicates things. And then the problem is when something goes south, because it always does, the finger gets pointed in multiple directions. So this is why I think only 3 or 4% of all automation projects are coming in on target.
So Lee, what do you see for the future? Sorry, Higgins.
I'm sorry?
What do we see for the next 5 years? And not specifically in the industry, not specifically, and maybe, also for Labor AI, what do you have going for the next 5 years? But what do you see occurring in this space in the next 5 years or 3 years? Is it all focused around AI? What else?
What else? Well, I'm just actually in the process of writing up a white paper on this, but I believe that the traditional WMS will go by the way of the dinosaur. And the new companies that are building WES now will be able to easily integrate the human and the automation in the same platform.
Okay.
Versus the WMS companies that are out there right now, and I was one of them, they're still working on the foundational code that was written 20, 25 years ago. And all their customers are on that foundational code, and we'll call it labor first, planning the people. And they have an add-on piece that doesn't really integrate the automation, but it talks to it. With the systems that are being written now, because WS is relatively a new solution, those solutions they'll at the core basis of their algorithms will integrate basically concurrent lines of labor and automation in the same model, so that you could say, oh, on my dashboard, my sortation unit is doing 678 sorts an hour, but we're supposed to get 1,000 sorts an hour, but it's not the sortation today because we're not getting enough product on the sortation belt upstream because that's a labor problem, right? And so if I've got 10,000 controllers and 12 different types of automation in a business, WMSs can't support that. So you need to have sort of that middleware piece. But then if that middleware piece is so strong and being written, that WMS is going to replace the WMS.
Okay.
So that's the first key aspect of it. The second key aspect of it, and what's going to happen in our market, setting aside, we'll call it the political things that are going on with regards to tariffs and moving product back and forth in country, is that we already don't build warehouses where people live. And as that grows, as cities sprawl more and warehouses get pushed further and further out, we will not only have a problem of labor, we'll have a problem of transporting labor to where we need them.
You're seeing that now. Yes.
Bingo.
Yep.
So what's happening is not only do people don't want to work for $22 an hour, but they don't want to travel for 45 minutes to make it.
Yeah.
Right. So that problem is if urban sprawl, which is pushing older buildings out. And it's great. Oh, I'm in LA. I've got a brand new building, but it's in Riverside and I live in, I don't know, East LA or something like that. I've got a 1 hour commute. I won't be able to fill that 1 million square foot building.
That's right.
There's not enough people in Riverside to do it. So, we're seeing that. We're already seeing that in Chicago area. We're seeing that in Dallas. The commutes are getting huge. Atlanta, a little bit of a nightmare, depending on where you live. And this is just going to continue to happen. And if they start saying, well, we're going to build warehouses where the labor is cheap, right? So we're going to start building in the South, Louisiana, Mississippi. The problem is I don't have the population there to support that.
That's right.
And a great microcosm of this plant or trend will happen in Savannah over the next 3 years. So I'm really interested to see what will happen in Savannah with the Hyundai of basically doubling the size of the city there with their operations that they're building there for like 60,000 people or something.
Yep.
Where are they going to get those people from?
Yep.
And what does that do to that labor market?
100%.
Exactly.
In the surrounding labor market. Yeah.
What's going to go all the way down to Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, your Pooler, Statesboro, all of those places. You could be pulling from all of those places.
So currently nobody has a plan for that. And I don't even see a lot of people considering that problem right now. The staffing agencies are still, doing whatever they can. But the problem is if you get another sort of 800-pound gorilla in the market in your area, outside of a Walmart or an Amazon, like a massive automation manufacturing facility, that's going to suck up your labor.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Higgins, that's an episode
Excellent
right there.
point.
There's an episode idea right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you go to a real estate guy and talk to a real estate guy about this, because that's all they do is demographics and buildings.
That's a great
That
idea.
would be a great person to grab on your show because, that's not my specialty, right? My specialty is not going out and finding a building and doing network analysis for people. I mean, that to me it just doesn't resonate in terms of saving people money.
Right. All right, audience, look for that part 2. I don't know who we're going to have and when, but I think that's a great call out. So Lee, we're coming up on the end of our time, but this has been so good. Tell our audience a little bit high level. Again, I know we've talked a lot about labor AI, just the offerings, maybe, a website, any upcoming conferences that you're going to be at, how to get in contact with you if they want to get, more information.
Sure. So first of all, our website's getlaborai.com. So we're pretty much easy to anywhere we see labor AI, you'll see us. So we're working on the patent for the name, but we're trade style it already. So you can get that.
Okay.
You can find my book, Warehousing 101 on Amazon. So, the Amazon's good for something. They put some money in my pocket there.
Yeah.
And then, as far as where we are supporting the IAA conferences, CSCMP. We'll be doing a large audience speaking engagement at Modex in Atlanta next year.
Oh, good.
We're in the process right now of doing projects and education operations in Asia. So in Bangkok, going over to Singapore as well over the next couple months. Okay. So we're an anomaly in the market. There's no other company in the market that does what we do, which is plan your labor before it gets to the LMS or it gets to the WMS. So we have a very big window right now. And we're already scheduling out work into mid-January. So we have almost 8,000 warehouses currently in our rollout pipeline.
Wow.
If you're looking for work, come on down. We're hiring salespeople, customer service people. We're hiring technical resources every day. It's a whole new ball game. So go to our website, look at our career section, and you can always reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I answer everybody that ever connects with me or sends me an email.
Yeah, truth to that. That's for sure. That's good. Well, listen, this has been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is exciting times, in our industry. To be honest with you, sometimes some of the topics we have aren't as probably maybe not exciting, but I think a good story in the industry, something that's really helping the industry, and exciting to see what you're going to be able to do in the coming months and years. So kudos to you, and thanks for joining us for time on Kev Talks.
Man, we appreciate your time. This is, I'm going to be a big fan. I'm going to nerd out on all this. So I love it. I appreciate you coming and be a part of this.
I really appreciate talking to you guys. And, at the same time, we'll start talking up Kev Talks to all our people.
Yeah, we appreciate that a ton.
All right. Thanks, Lee. And thanks for everyone joining us. Look for this episode and others on youtube.com.
Yeah. Talk to you soon, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. If today's discussion inspired you, don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate, and share our podcast.
Remember, every great journey in logistics starts with a single step forward. Let's continue working together to transform the industry.